I'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. The illustrious John Milton Wesley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Donnie. Good to see you, man. Good to be here.
Good. Tuesday, November 23rd.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
start up the top. How is our president doing? What does he need to do moving forward?
Well, one of the things he needs to do is to spend some time, of course, talking to both the Tea Party and the Republican Party, and I think that's two different groups. I think he needs to talk to them. I think he needs to let young people know the importance of getting involved as we come into the next elections that will come up in about 2 years. But more importantly, for all of the reapportionment that is coming up, it's important that he get local elected officials who are running to let people know where they live. In other words, I tried to get those running for the different council-manager districts in Baltimore and for the state to actually put the demographics of their districts on their literature so people will know what it is and what's important in this reapportionment that's coming up. So that's something that's
And you're
coming up.
talking about the redrawing of the lines,
The redrawing of the
redistricting.
lines and the redistricting. That's something that's very important, and people need to understand the importance of that.
Yeah, you being the godson of the late Fannie Lou Hamer,
Yeah,
a woman you taught me about and I revere to this day,
yeah.
where, what did we get for our vote for Barack Obama here in the state of Maryland? How, what do we, people of color, people of the
Mm-hmm.
darker hue, black people,
Mm-hmm.
what do we get for our undying loyal support of the Democratic Party?
Well, I think you have to separate what you get for your undying support of the Democratic Party from what you get from your undying support of Barack Obama. I think to be part of a winning formula, first of all, the fact that African Americans were so integral to that victory for Barack Obama, I think that that's a very important piece. But I think more importantly, the Democratic Party has to realize the value of the African American vote. You know, they came around to it close to the end of this cycle, and I can understand why, because with all of the movement at the time seeming as if it was going toward throwing the incumbents out, and most of the incumbents were Democrats, that the Democratic Party of the state of Maryland was a little bit reluctant to come out wholeheartedly in gratitude for the support of the African American community. Now, as we got closer to the elections, it became very important, as that it became obvious how important Baltimore County, Prince George's County, Howard County is and was to the governor in order to win. So that became very evident. As we look across the country, though, if the Democrats who were voted out this past time, if they intend to be elected the next time in the next two years in 2012, then what they're going to have to do is to work in the communities where they lost, helping to make those communities better and improving the quality of life there. And they're going to need the support of the African American infrastructures, the community-based organizations, the leaders, the rainmakers, the gatekeepers. They need to coalesce with those people in order to benefit from the last elections and the people who were actually able to stay in office.
What does this president need to do in order to be reelected?
Well, he's going to have to, believe it or not, move a little bit to the right. This was a very interesting past election that we went through. If you realize, in order to survive, those Democrats that survived moved a little bit to the left because the right was taken by the Republicans and the Tea Parties. You know, they got the right of right. What this president is going to have to do, interestingly enough, is do something very traditional. He's going to have to move a little bit to the right, and we, as a populace, African Americans and economically disadvantaged people, and the people who coalesced around him, we're going to have to understand that in order for him to win the next election and to be successful between now and then, he's expected to move it a little bit to the right. Now, that's where you hear him talking to the Tea Party, talking to the Republicans. The Republicans are going to have enough stuff to deal with anyway. because they got to get the status quo Republicans, the mainstream Republicans, the Tea Parties, and the radical Tea Parties. They got to deal with all these people. Otherwise, the Tea Party is going to do a raid on the Republican stronghold if that means that the Republicans stay in power.
On a local level, Baltimore City Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake was on TV Hill on Sunday, Channel 11, and when asked what her top legislative priority would be as the General Assembly kicks off in January 2011, she pointed to getting violent offenders off the streets. She pointed to Ken's Law, i.e., the late former Baltimore City Councilman Ken Harris. Do you think that getting violent offenders off, Ken's Law, is the best top priority, or would it be jobs? Would it be education or something else?
Well, you know, one of the themes that emerged in the last election, Donnie, was this whole talk about kitchen table issues. You know, kitchen table issues. While people are worried about the violent offenders on the street and all of that, most of them, like you and I, are worried about utility bills and food and what the winter is going to do and being able to just maintain on a daily basis. So those are the kinds of issues that people are concerned about, which has to do with job creation, job development, and those kinds of things. When you talk about getting violent offenders off the street, you're really talking about the issue of crime. People who have committed crimes, who have spent time incarcerated, they have a different attitude toward police, different attitude toward community, a different attitude toward people who have quote unquote things of value. You know, for instance, the guy who broke into the mayor's husband's car the other night. You know, the reason that he did that was because he has a habit, he saw a thing of value, he ignored things like the presence of videotape, didn't realize it was the mayor's house, didn't realize it was the mayor's husband's car. He saw a thing of value and he felt like he could do something with that thing of value. That is a result of having no training, or believing that he had no training, believing that he had no alternative responses to the situation that he finds himself in his life. So these are the kinds of things that the mayor has to deal with. I know crime is up, they're concerned about that, but at the same time, those kitchen table issues. People are concerned about schools, people are concerned about being able to pay for kids' lunches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the things that I really think that she needs to take a look at.
Okay. Any final thoughts on the political spectrum before we get to the music realm?
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting. I saw that there was a flap last week over something that happened with Clerk of the Court Conaway. Apparently somebody said something, there's some kind of negative stuff that came out on that. I didn't get the full backstory on it. But also, you know, looking at the people who are running, you know, you got Otis Rowley, you got Catherine Pugh, you got a lot of people who are looking at this.
Frank Conaway put his name in there, and of course,
Frank Conaway put his name in there.
the mayor stated that she will be going for election.
Right, the mayor said that she's going to run. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I think that there are some people who are in this race that will give Baltimoreans a choice. I think some of the candidates,
Like who?
well, I think Otis Rowley gives them a very interesting choice. You know, I'm positive of Pennsylvania Avenue in the Upton area, and anybody who shows me that they have a grasp of the issues in that area, I mean, and I'm not biased, I'm just saying, but when you show me that you have a grasp of the issues that face Upton, which is the cradle of economic and artistic development and spiritual development in Baltimore, I got to listen to what it is you got to say. And when I look at the master plan for Upton that really happened during his 10 years as head of planning, I have to look at that and give some credence to that. But I think the other candidates, I think they're all strong. And, you know, most of them are friends of mine. But as I look at them being, I will say, let me just say it again, I'm positive to Upton. I'm positive to Pennsylvania Avenue, you know, and that's what's important to me.
We're going to take a pause and come back for part two. We're talking with the illustrious John Milton Wesley. By the way, those are some pretty nice darn shoes you got on there. Keep watching BMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.